First Contact and Derision. The Valaxian Empire's first contact team stood twice as tall as the tallest human, their crystalline exoskeletons reflecting the harsh sunlight of Earth's Mojave Desert. Ambassador Sarah Chen fought the urge to crane her neck as she addressed the towering aliens. This wasn't how humanity had imagined first contact, not with beings who looked down at them, both literally and figuratively. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice steady despite the intimidating presence before her. The universal translator embedded in the Valaxians' environmental suits produced a series of melodic tones that seemed to ripple through the air. High Commander Zextal's response came through the human receivers as a patronizing drawl. "How quaint. Your species has managed to achieve rudimentary spaceflight with such primitive technology. We had expected to find simple animals when we detected your radio signals. Instead, we find..." The alien paused, mandibles clicking. "Children." That first meeting set the tone for humanity's introduction to the wider galaxy. The Valaxian Empire, spanning nearly a quarter of the Milky Way, had ruled supreme for over 10,000 years. Their technology seemed like magic. Ships that could fold space, weapons that could rearrange matter at the atomic level, and medical science that had conquered death itself. But it was their size that initially commanded the most attention. The smallest adult Valaxians stood 4 meters tall, their crystalline bodies housing complex photosynthetic organs that drew energy directly from their sun. They viewed humanity's need to eat organic matter as primitive, our size as insignificant, and our technological achievements as little more than clever tricks performed by precocious infants. Within months, Earth's governments found themselves signing protection agreements with the Empire. The terms seemed generous on the surface. Access to some of their technology, permission to colonize a handful of worlds, and integration into the imperial economy. What wasn't obvious at first was the cage being built around humanity. Dr. Marcus Wong discovered the first hint of the Empire's true intentions while working at a research station on Mars. His team had been studying the effects of various alien environments on human physiology when they made a startling discovery. Humans could adapt to environmental conditions that would kill most other species in the galaxy. "Look at these readings," Marcus told his colleague, Dr. Emily Rodriguez, pointing to a holographic display. "Our test subjects are showing cellular adaptation rates orders of magnitude higher than anything in the Imperial database. We're not primitive, we're unique." But when they tried to publish their findings through Imperial channels, the data was classified. The Empire had no intention of letting humanity realize its potential. Instead, they began pushing humans toward the most dangerous and difficult colonial enterprises, worlds that other species couldn't survive on. The exploitation became clear when the Empire established mining colonies on worlds with crushing gravity and toxic atmospheres. Humans could survive there, adapt there, work there, and die there. The death rates were staggering, but the Empire considered it an acceptable loss for accessing valuable resources. Sarah Chen, now serving as the human representative to the Imperial Council, watched helplessly as more and more of her people were shipped off to these deadly worlds. The Empire's contempt for human life was matched only by their greed for the resources humans could help them extract. But they had made a crucial mistake. In their arrogance, they had given humanity access to just enough technology and just enough worlds to survive. They assumed that beings so small, so physically weak compared to them, could never pose a threat to their dominion. They didn't understand that humanity had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day, that human history was written in the blood of empires that had underestimated smaller, more determined opponents. They didn't realize that by pushing humans to the harshest worlds in the galaxy, they were only making them stronger, more resilient, more adaptable. And they certainly didn't notice when the first seeds of rebellion began to take root in those very same mining colonies they had condemned humanity to. In the crushing gravity of heavy world colonies and the acid storms of methane giants, humans began to whisper about revolution. Dr. Wong's research continued in secret, spread through hidden channels between colonies. Humans began to understand their unique advantages, not just their adaptability, but their size, their ability to survive in environments the Valaxians couldn't even enter. What the Empire saw as weaknesses would become weapons. The Empire's first warning should have come when they lost contact with a small mining outpost in the Rigel sector. The official report blamed equipment failure, poor maintenance by the human workers. No one investigated too closely when the same thing happened to a second outpost, then a third. They didn't realize that humanity was learning, adapting, preparing. In the shadows of their massive cities and the depths of their mining worlds, a storm was brewing. Humanity had been pushed too far, and now they would show the galaxy why size wasn't everything. The Empire was about to learn an ancient human saying, "The bigger they are, the harder they fall." The breaking point. The heavy world mining colony of New Horizon wasn't supposed to exist, at least not according to official Imperial records. Built into the side of a mountain under crushing gravity 3 times that of Earth, it had started as a failed mining operation. But for Dr. Emily Rodriguez, it had become something far more important, the birthplace of revolution. She stood in a cavern that would have made even the largest Valaxian claustrophobic, surrounded by salvaged Imperial technology and human ingenuity. Hundreds of screens flickered with data streams from across the galaxy, each one telling the same story. Humanity had reached its breaking point. "We've lost another colony on Sigma VI," reported James Chen, Sarah Chen's son, and their primary intelligence analyst. His holographic form flickered in the high gravity. Official death toll is over 3,000. The Empire's calling it an unfortunate industrial accident. Emily's fists clenched. These weren't accidents. They were genocide in slow motion. The Empire had been pushing humans harder and harder, setting impossible quotas, providing substandard equipment. But they had never expected humans to survive long enough to notice the pattern. "Show me the neural interface data," she ordered, and a new set of holograms sprang to life. This was what the Empire feared most, what they had tried so desperately to hide. Humans weren't just adaptable physically. Their brains could form connections that no other species could match. The discovery had been accidental. A maintenance worker named Miguel Santos had been trying to repair an ancient piece of technology found in one of the deeper mines. The device, clearly predating even the Empire, had responded to his touch in ways it never had for the Valaxians. Within hours, he had not just repaired it, he had improved it. That's when everything changed. Every piece of ancient tech they found responded the same way to human neural patterns. The Empire's superiority was built on technology they had found, not created, and humans could interface with it in ways they never could. "The Liberation Front is growing," James continued. "We've got cells on every major mining world now, but the Empire's starting to notice something's wrong. They've increased security at key installations." Emily nodded, remembering the day they'd formed the front. It had started small workers sabotaging equipment, mysteriously failing to meet quotas, accidentally damaging Imperial property. But it had grown into something far more organized, far more dangerous. "Show me the Tartarus operation," she commanded. A new hologram appeared, showing a massive Imperial supply depot. The Valaxians had built it to their scale. Enormous warehouses filled with equipment and resources stripped from human mining colonies. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had used human slaves to maintain it. The operation was simple but effective. Small teams of humans, taking advantage of their size, infiltrated the facility through maintenance ducts and waste disposal systems. They planted devices that Miguel had modified from the ancient tech, devices that could shut down Imperial security systems, corrupt their data, and worse. "First phase is complete," James reported. "We've got control of their primary systems. They don't even know we're there." Emily allowed herself a small smile. The Empire had built their facilities to defend against threats their size. They never thought to guard against something as small as a human. Their sensors were designed to detect ships and vehicles, not individual people walking through their halls. But the Empire wasn't entirely blind. Reports had begun to surface of supply shortages, mysterious equipment failures, and inexplicable system crashes. Some of the more paranoid Imperial officials had begun to suspect human involvement, but they were laughed off by their superiors. After all, how could such primitive beings pose a threat? "What about the diplomatic mission?" Emily asked, though she already knew the answer. James's hologram shook his head. Ambassador Chen's final attempt at negotiation failed. "The Empire won't even acknowledge our right to petition for better conditions. They're calling it ungrateful behavior from a protected species." That had been the last straw for many humans who had still hoped for a peaceful solution. Sarah Chen, once the voice of cooperation with the Empire, had disappeared after that final meeting. Rumors said she had gone to the outer colonies, bringing with her detailed knowledge of Imperial security protocols and access codes. "Then we proceed with Phase 2, Emily declared. "Tell our cells to begin targeting their communication networks. And get me Miguel. It's time to see what else we can learn from the ancient tech." The next few weeks saw a wave of seemingly unrelated incidents across Imperial space. Communication relays failed. Navigation systems gave incorrect coordinates. Supply shipments vanished without a trace. Small things, easily dismissed as technical failures or pirate activity. But they were only the beginning. In her hidden command center, Emily watched as the pieces fell into place. Human resistance cells, armed with restored ancient technology and intimate knowledge of Imperial weaknesses, struck from the shadows. Their small size, once a subject of mockery, became their greatest advantage. They could go where no Valaxian could follow, strike where no Imperial sensor could detect them. But the Empire's response was brutal. When they couldn't find the resistance fighters, they took their frustration out on the civilian population. Mining quotas doubled. Rations were cut. Safety protocols were ignored entirely. "They're going to kill us all," James said quietly, watching footage of another mining disaster. "If we don't act soon, there won't be enough of us left to fight." Emily stared at the screens, at the reports of death and suffering. The Empire had pushed them to this point, thinking they could break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had forged it into something stronger, more determined. "Contact all cells," she ordered. "Tell them to prepare for Operation Ghost Ship. It's time to show the Empire exactly what humanity is capable of." As her orders went out across the hidden network, Emily thought about how the Empire had dismissed humans as weak, as primitive, as small. They were about to learn that size wasn't everything. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting against overwhelming odds, adapting to impossible situations, surviving where others would have perished. The Empire thought they had created perfect slaves. Instead, they had created their worst nightmare, an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't catch, and couldn't understand. An enemy that had learned to turn the Empire's own arrogance against them. The breaking point had been reached. Now, the Empire would learn why humans told stories about tiny Davids defeating mighty Goliaths. The Ghost Fleet. The Imperial graveyard orbited a dying star in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Hundreds of decommissioned warships, some nearly a kilometer long, floated silently in the crimson light. To the Empire, it was a dumping ground for obsolete technology. To Miguel Santos, it was humanity's salvation. He stood in the command center of what had once been an Imperial dreadnought, his neural interface allowing him to communicate directly with the ancient systems that powered the massive vessel. Around him, dozens of other humans worked to bring the dead ship back to life, each connected to different systems through interfaces of his design. "Power distribution network is online," reported Anna Patel, her eyes closed as she communicated with the ship's systems. "The modifications are holding. We're operating at 30% above original Imperial specifications." Miguel nodded, feeling the ship's systems through his own interface. What the Empire had never understood was that their technology, the technology they had found and claimed as their own, had been designed for minds far more similar to human ones than Valaxian. Every system they had adapted to their use had been operating at a fraction of its true potential. Ghost Fleet Command, this is Wraith Leader. A voice crackled through the quantum comm. We've got incoming Imperial patrols. 3 heavy cruisers entering the system. Hold positions, Miguel ordered. Let's see if our modifications work. The salvaged fleet, nearly 50 ships that humans had secretly restored over the past year, maintained their silence. Their modified stealth systems, enhanced by human neural interfaces, rendered them virtually invisible. Even their power signatures were masked by the radiation from the dying star. The Imperial cruisers moved through the graveyard with casual disregard, their crews probably bored with routine patrol duty. They didn't notice as human ships quietly powered up around them. They didn't detect the weapons being brought to bear, weapons that now operated at levels their original designers had intended. All ships, execute Operation Phantom, Miguel commanded. The battle that followed lasted less than 10 minutes. The Imperial cruisers never had a chance to send a distress signal. Human neural interfaces allowed for reaction times impossible for Valaxian crews. Weapons fired with perfect coordination, shields adapted instantly to counterattacks, and maneuvers were executed with computer-like precision. When it was over, 3 more Imperial ships joined the graveyard's silent collection. But these would serve a different purpose. Their crews had been captured alive, their ships would be studied, and their databases would be mined for intelligence. Search the ships, Miguel ordered, and get me a secure link to New Horizon. Dr. Rodriguez needs to see this. Hours later, Emily's hologram stood beside him as they reviewed the battle data. 3 Imperial heavy cruisers defeated without a single human casualty, she marveled. The neural interfaces make that much difference. It's more than that, Miguel explained, bringing up technical readouts. Every piece of technology we've recovered, every system we've studied, they were all designed for minds like ours. The Valaxians have been using this technology at maybe 20% of its capability. We can use it as it was meant to be used. The implications were staggering. The Empire's technological superiority, the foundation of their power, was built on a fundamental misunderstanding. They had found the tools of a long-dead civilization and learned to use them clumsily, never realizing their true potential. What about the prisoners? Emily asked. Terrified, Miguel replied with a grim smile. They can't understand how primitives like us could defeat them so easily. But more importantly, they've given us vital intelligence. The Empire is starting to realize something's wrong. Ships are disappearing, colonies are going dark, and their best technology is failing them. Good, Emily nodded. It's time for the next phase. We've received word from Ambassador Chen. She's made contact with other species the Empire has subjugated. Turns out we're not the only ones they've underestimated. The next few months saw a dramatic escalation in the conflict. The Ghost Fleet, as it came to be known, struck Imperial targets across the galaxy. They would appear from nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Each victory brought more ships, more resources, and more allies to the human cause. The Empire's response was predictable. They sent larger fleets, imposed stricter security measures, and increased their oppression of human colonies. But their actions only served to drive more humans to the resistance. Every crackdown created new enemies. Every show of force revealed new weaknesses. Miguel's team continued to unlock more secrets from the ancient technology. They discovered ways to enhance their stealth systems further, developed weapons that could bypass Imperial shields, and created communication networks that the Empire couldn't detect or intercept. But their greatest discovery came from an unexpected source. One of the captured Imperial officers, during interrogation, revealed the existence of a massive ancient installation near the galactic core. The Empire had been studying it for centuries, but had never managed to activate its main systems. This could be what we've been waiting for, Miguel told Emily during one of their secure communications. If this installation was built by the same civilization that created all this technology, and if we can interface with it, it could change everything. Emily finished. "But the galactic core is the most heavily defended region in Imperial space. Even with our advantages, we'd need a miracle to reach it." Miguel smiled, his neural interface glowing softly. "Maybe not. Remember what the Empire keeps forgetting. We're small. And I think I know how we can use that to our advantage one more time." As they planned their most daring operation yet, reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy. The Ghost Fleet's success had inspired others. Species that had lived under Imperial rule for millennia began to resist. The Empire's grip on power, once thought absolute, began to show cracks. In their hidden command centers and salvaged warships, humans continued to prepare. They had learned patience in their years of oppression. They had learned cunning in their fight for survival. And now, they would teach the Empire a lesson it would never forget. The Ghost Fleet grew stronger with each passing day, a phantom armada crewed by the very beings the Empire had dismissed as insignificant. Soon, they would strike at the heart of Imperial power itself. And in the dying light of a forgotten star, Miguel Santos smiled as he watched his fleet prepare for war. The Empire had called humans primitive, had mocked their size, had tried to break their spirit. Now they would learn why that had been their greatest mistake. Asymmetric warfare. The Imperial capital world of Valaxis Prime was considered impregnable. Its orbital defense network could destroy fleets before they entered weapons range. Its atmospheric shields could repel any bombardment. Its security forces were the elite of the Empire. But they never thought to look down. Sarah Chen, former ambassador and now commander of the Resistance's infiltration teams, led her squad through maintenance tunnels designed for cleaning drones. The Valaxians, with their massive size, had automated all their small-scale maintenance work. They'd never imagined that beings as small as humans could use these passages as highways into their most secure facilities. "Team Alpha in position," she whispered into her neural comm, confirming access to primary environmental controls. Similar reports came in from teams across the capital. For months, they had been infiltrating the planet, hiding in plain sight, preparing for this moment. The Empire's arrogance had made it possible. They'd never bothered to adjust their security sensors to detect human-sized intruders. Miles above the planet's surface, the Ghost Fleet waited in stealth formation. Miguel's ships had been modified even further, incorporating everything they'd learned about the ancient technology. They were now capable of feats that the Empire would have considered impossible. "All teams report ready." Emily's voice came through the neural network. She was coordinating the operation from a secure facility on New Horizon. "Commence Operation Achilles." Sarah's team moved first. Using interfaces they'd planted weeks ago, they began to subtly alter the environmental systems in key Imperial facilities. Nothing dramatic, just small changes in temperature, atmospheric pressure, and gravity that would slowly affect Valaxian performance. Meanwhile, other teams targeted the Empire's communication networks. Carefully crafted viruses, designed by human programmers who understood the ancient systems better than their current users, began to spread. Messages were delayed, corrupted, or rerouted. Confusion spread through Imperial command structures. Second phase initiated, Sarah reported as her team moved deeper into the facility, beginning biological deployment. This had been one of their most closely guarded secrets. Human scientists had developed a compound that affected the photosynthetic organs of Valaxians, reducing their energy absorption efficiency. It wasn't lethal. They weren't interested in genocide, but it would significantly weaken their opponents. The compound was colorless, odorless, and specifically designed to pass through Imperial atmospheric filters. It began spreading through the environmental systems, carried by air currents to every corner of the capital. The effects would take hours to become noticeable, but by then it would be too late. Imperial Defense Command is reporting multiple system failures. James Chen's voice reported through the network. They're starting to realize something's wrong, but they can't identify the source. Above the planet, Miguel's Ghost Fleet maintained their position, waiting. The Empire's mighty defense network was already compromised. Its sensors fed false data through careful manipulation of their ancient systems. When the time came to strike, those defenses would prove useless. But the Empire wasn't entirely helpless. As reports of system failures and unexplained malfunctions spread, some commanders began to suspect human involvement. Security teams were mobilized, sweeps were ordered, and emergency protocols were enacted. "We've got patrols approaching the maintenance sectors," Sarah warned. "They're starting to check the drone tunnels." "Proceed with Phase 3, Emily ordered. "We can't wait any longer." Sarah's team reached their final objective, the central processing core for the capital's defense grid. While Imperial security forces searched maintenance tunnels near the surface, her team had gone deeper, using routes that appeared too small for any intelligent being to navigate. "Initiating core override," she reported, connecting her neural interface to the ancient systems. The Empire had built layers of security around these cores, but they had never understood how they truly worked. To human neural patterns, these systems were like old friends, eager to share their secrets. Above the planet, Miguel gave the order. The Ghost Fleet decloaked, appearing seemingly out of nowhere in perfect attack formation. Imperial commanders, already dealing with system failures and deteriorating troops, found themselves facing an enemy fleet that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their defenses. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega," Miguel commanded. "Strike hard, strike fast, but remember, minimal casualties. We're here to end the Empire, not become them." The battle that followed would be studied for centuries to come. Human ships, operated at their true potential through neural interfaces, danced through Imperial defenses that fired at sensor ghosts and false targets. Ground-based weapons turned on their own installations, their ancient systems responding to human commands. Sarah's team, their mission complete, began their extraction. But as they moved through the maintenance tunnels, they encountered something unexpected. Civilians. Valaxian civilians, weakened by the biological agent, seeking shelter in the only places their soldiers couldn't reach. "Hold position," Sarah ordered her team, then switched to a broader channel. "Command, we have civilians in the maintenance networks. They're trying to hide, just like we did." There was a moment of silence on the network. Then Emily's voice came through, clear and firm. "Offer them protection. Show them we're not like their empire. Show them what humanity really stands for." As battles raged in orbit and Imperial forces struggled to respond to attacks from enemies they couldn't see, something remarkable happened in those maintenance tunnels. Humans, barely reaching the knees of their former oppressors, offered help to frightened Valaxian civilians. Medical supplies were shared, safe routes were pointed out, and the first seeds of understanding were planted. "The Imperial High Command is requesting communication," James reported, his voice tense with excitement. They're asking for terms." Sarah looked up at the Valaxian civilians her team was helping, seeing fear being replaced by confusion, then understanding. The Empire had taught its people that size meant power, that bigger was always better. But here, in these tiny tunnels, that lie was finally exposed. "Tell them we'll discuss terms," Emily replied. "But first, they need to understand something. The age of the Empire is over. Whatever comes next, it has to be built on equality, not dominance. On cooperation, not conquest." As Sarah led her mixed group of humans and Valaxians to safety, she couldn't help but smile. The Empire had fallen not to a superior force, but to the very beings they had dismissed as insignificant. They had learned too late that true strength isn't measured in size, but in determination, adaptability, and wisdom. The war wasn't over. There would be holdouts, resistance, and challenges ahead. But the back of the Empire had been broken, not by brute force, but by the clever application of humanity's supposed weaknesses. They had turned their small size into an advantage, their adaptability into a weapon, and their understanding of ancient technology into a key to victory. The ancient installation's secrets for all to see. The civilization that built this technology, he explained, didn't believe in dominance through size or strength. Their legacy was meant to unite, not divide. We humans didn't unlock these systems because we were superior. We did it because we were compatible with their vision. The revelation had shaken the galaxy's power structures to their core. The Empire's technological superiority had been based on a fundamental misunderstanding. The ancient builders had created systems that responded to neural patterns similar to humans, patterns that emphasized adaptability, creativity, and cooperation over rigid hierarchy and brute force. But we don't want to simply replace one dominant species with another, Emily declared, addressing the assembly. Our strength comes from our diversity, from combining our unique abilities and perspectives. The Valaxians' natural energy efficiency, the Zinfar's crystalline data processing, the Nebulon's ability to exist in multiple states. Every species has something vital to contribute. The Articles of Confederation reflected this philosophy. Instead of a hierarchical empire, they proposed a collaborative federation, where each species governed their own affairs while contributing to the greater whole. Size, strength, and age would no longer determine status. We've already seen what we can achieve together, Sarah added, gesturing to the latest reports. Joint human-Valaxian engineering teams had created revolutionary new technologies, combining human neural interface capabilities with Valaxian energy systems. The Zinthar had discovered they could enhance their crystalline computing by incorporating human-inspired neural networks. But not everyone welcomed these changes. A faction of former imperial hardliners had retreated to the outer regions, promising to maintain the pure principles of Valaxian supremacy. They had taken with them significant military assets and remained a threat. Let them go, Emily had argued in private sessions. We didn't fight for freedom just to force others to live as we choose. They'll either learn to coexist or fade into irrelevance. The Assembly's attention turned to the most ambitious proposal, the establishment of the Galactic Academy of Sciences and Arts. It would be built within the ancient installation near the galactic core, incorporating the combined knowledge and capabilities of all member species. This is what the ancient builders intended, Miguel explained, demonstrating how the installation's systems naturally adapted to different species' neural patterns. They created these tools not for conquest, but for collaboration. They wanted to unite the galaxy's diverse species, not subjugate them. As the discussions continued, Emily found herself in conversation with Zextal, the same high commander who had once dismissed humanity as children. Now aged and humbled by recent events, he spoke with a different tone. We thought size and strength were everything, he admitted. We never understood that true power comes from adaptation, from learning, from working together. Your species taught us that lesson the hard way. We all have something to learn from each other, Emily replied. The Empire's mistake wasn't in being powerful. It was in believing that power only came in one form. The final vote on the Articles of Confederation was unanimous. As celebrations erupted across the galaxy, Emily stood with Sarah and Miguel, watching the diverse species intermingle in ways that would have been unthinkable months ago. So what now? Sarah asked, looking out at their changed galaxy. Miguel smiled, his neural interface pulsing with data from the ancient systems. The installation's archives suggest there are other galaxies out there, other civilizations waiting to be contacted. The ancient builders had plans for intergalactic travel, plans we might finally be ready to understand. Emily nodded, watching as a young Valaxian carefully helped a human child climb onto one of the massive conference tables. The child showed no fear of the giant being, and the Valaxian handled their tiny companion with gentle respect. Now we build something new, she said, something that honors both our differences and our common dreams. The Empire thought being small made us weak, but we proved that strength comes in all sizes. Now we'll prove that greatness comes from working together, not standing above others. As the assembly hall buzzed with plans for the future, Emily couldn't help but smile. Humanity had fought not just for their own freedom, but for a fundamental truth, that the measure of a species isn't in their physical size or military might, but in their capacity for growth, adaptation, and cooperation. The empire had fallen, but something far greater was rising in its place, a civilization where every voice mattered, regardless of its volume. A future where diversity was strength and cooperation was power. The dawn of their revolution had become the dawn of a new age for the entire galaxy.